Welcome to True Wellness with Dr. D, the podcast where we explore what it takes to live with vitality, balance, and purpose. I am Dr. D, and each week I'll bring you powerful tools, inspiring stories, and expert insights to help you thrive in every area of your life. From health and wellness to mindset and navigating life's challenges, this podcast is your guide to creating a life of true well-being. Be sure to check the show notes and grab your free copy of the True Wellness Checklist so you can get started on your journey to true wellness right away. Now, let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of True Wellness with Dr. D. Hey, did you ever stop to think for just a moment that maybe sound can have a profound impact on our health? What if there were literally frequencies that can create a change in your physical, mental, emotional well-being? Well, that, my friends, is what we are talking about today. And I am joined by Linda Bamber. Thank you, Linda, for being here. And Linda is the owner of WAVWatch, and she is an enthusiastic teacher about natural acoustical frequencies and the changes that they can make in your life. Now, she has a BS in food and nutrition. That's a bachelor's of science. And she's taught for over 13 years in the natural health space. And, you know, Linda's motto is probably my favorite because it really is what we're talking about today. And her motto is that there's a frequency for that. So Linda, let's dive in. Let's talk about frequency. Let's talk about sound. Let's talk about bioenergetics. I mean, tell us a little bit about how you even started down this pathway, because you've been doing this for so long, and it's really just at the forefront of information and knowledge of where we are today. And yet you discovered this way before.
Well, you know, I don't want to take credit for anything, actually, because this is ancient information. And, you know, sometimes I'll just be so upfront and say, you know, God didn't want to make our healing hard on us. He really didn't. He gave us our voice full of frequencies, and all we have to do is just reach inward. And frequencies from our voice have changed our bodies. They are just putting studies together on that now. Mm-hmm. But ancient cultures knew it thousands of years ago, and they developed all of these instruments, you know, for sound. But we kind of missed. We made fun of it and said, oh, no, a pill is better. This is better. This is better. Mm-hmm. When the power of our voice is totally amazing. And to prove it to yourself, all you have to do is just tune into your favorite song and listen to it.
And you always feel good.
Why is it your favorite song? Because it changes your emotions, something. So in less than 5 minutes, the sound of music or a voice can change your body and your mind, you know. So we don't have to try that hard, but we do, because people are missing this. And I'm just a person that wants simplicity, you know. Yeah. So I kind of had a long story, you know, I don't know how much to dive into, but I was born completely deaf in one ear. And that's where, you know, my fascination with sound came from, because they didn't discover it until the 3rd grade. And so evidently I had figured out a few things on my own somehow.
You did. I'm sure.
And then I just kept up that fascination. And, you know, I played a couple instruments in, you know, middle school and high school. But when I went to college, I changed from the saxophone to drums. I started playing drums. And that's when I really found my voice, because I was so deaf, I couldn't really sing very good, but I could keep a rhythm, and those drums spoke to me in some way. So I played drums in a band for 35 years. So that was really kind of fun, you know, and an interesting little tidbit, but that was my music connection. And then, you know, I taught school for 13 years in foods and nutrition, like you mentioned. Right. And then both my mother and sister were diagnosed with breast cancer about the same time. Mm. And, you know, you've probably heard these stories before, Dr. D, but my doctors, they just told me I should have a double mastectomy and forget about it, you know, going with my life, because my mother and sister had problems. It's like, are you kidding? You know, I can't imagine what my face looked like, you know, because in my mind, I was screaming, "Are you crazy? What are you talking about? You want me to have a double mastectomy? There's nothing wrong with me." And, trying to be calm and facing the doctor, I was saying, "Well, I think I can figure out something better than that." And I walked out of their office and I started getting education, and I already had the nutritional side, but I started getting holistic training and bought several tools that worked with frequencies. There you
Uh-huh.
go.
Here we
And,
go.
and then got my doctorate, in holistic medicine. And so, it's been quite a journey, but I shared it for the last 20 years with women who had breast health problems. So the business I started to save my own self was
Right.
called BRAS, Breast Research Awareness and Support. So it's an acronym.
I
And,
love it.
and so I teach women how to protect themselves. So that's the whole concept of it. And as I kept seeing more and more problems and reasons why women were having breast problems, I was just kind of overwhelmed because I had lots of products. I had exercises, I had natural ideas, I had different beds for them to lay on and things like this.
Sure.
And finally one day I'm going, "God help me,
Right.
tell me what to do." And there's a frequency for that, just up. And sure enough, I found frequencies for viruses that cause breast cancer, vaccines. I shouldn't have probably have said that, but different things, um, uh, parasites. I mean, I even have a woman that got bit by a horse and then developed, severe problems. You cannot begin to think emotions. The list is endless of
Yeah.
all the ideas that can be connected with breast problems.
Yeah.
But I found frequencies for every single one of them.
I love that because we are bioenergetic beings. You probably don't know this about me, but I am a kinesiologist. So we use kinesiology in our practice. Why? Because it pinpoints, right? Really. And what is it? It's frequency. It's just tapping into the body's frequencies to understand what it is that the body needs. So it's like, it's this magical world that is not talked about in the day to day. And it's so incredibly powerful, right? So incredibly
It
powerful.
is. And I was so excited when I saw that you worked with kinesiology because I'm one of the few that do. And
Yeah,
I teach every woman who has breast health problems that has come to me how to do her own muscle testing or
yeah,
kinesiology. And
yes.
then that opens up a world for them. And some of them really catch on and use it. And then, some of them are a little bit, a little bit more hesitant, but it is a fantastic tool that everybody can use. Again, God didn't make it hard for us. He gave us that. Our own bodies can tell us different frequency ideas.
Yeah, imagine that. And now you've made it even simpler too, because now you've taken these sound frequencies and, I'm wearing my WAVWatch here on adrenal balance because, I just need a little bit of that balance right now. My husband and my sons, they were in a car accident. It's been the week has been a little bit crazy. Everyone's okay. Thank God. Right. Everyone's okay. But now there's all the other stuff to deal with in the
Yes.
process, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just keep my adrenals nice and calm so that my health doesn't get impacted by the events in my life. And I think that's the power of frequency. Like we can actually do these different things easily and effortlessly.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so that's kind of what I did after I kind of got overwhelmed with so many choices for women in my, breast health offices. I started developing the WAVWatch, and I had the idea about 15 years before I got it developed. The technology really wasn't there.
Sure.
They didn't have many music players, 20 years ago, but
Yes.
I had the idea, you
Yes.
know.
Yes.
And so I had to wait until some of the technology came about, and then I wanted to strap it on your wrist and make it a lot easier. So I was able to cram in over 1,000 different kinds of frequencies that were very specific that were measured years ago. So I haven't even given credit to who I should be giving credit to, right?
Well, let's talk about that. What are these frequencies? I know the first time too that I started thinking about sound frequencies, one of the most eye-opening books for me. Oh gosh, the author's name is leaving me, but The Cure for All Diseases, The Cure for All Cancer.
Oh yeah, sure, I know it.
Hulda Clark's books. Yeah, Hulda Clark's book. That was like, oh my goodness, like she literally started mapping out all the different frequencies, all the resonance, and how they interacted with all like the parasites and stuff in our body. And I was like, wow, this is like, why aren't we talking about these things?
It's just totally amazing. And we've missed it. Sorry. We have. It's stuff that's old news. It's over 100 years old that they have really quantified and told us and measured a lot of these frequencies.
Yeah.
So Tesla, Nikola Tesla was the first one. Now we have to say which one.
Yes.
He was amazing with frequencies, obviously. And we always give him credit. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequencies, and vibration. And that's one of my favorite little sayings from him, because that's what he embodied. So he's given us a phrase that I think is fascinating.
Yes.
So they can measure the frequencies of a virus. Or maybe it isn't a virus, but it's a thing. They can still measure the frequency of whatever it is, Wow. And then if we have that frequency in some kind of a form, like I was able to put on the WAVWatch,
right,
your body, if that virus happens to be setting in your body and the WAVWatch sends that same frequency into your body, those same identical frequencies will meet and they will start to resonate. So that's called resonance. That's all it is. So these two frequencies, identical frequencies, meet and they self-amplify and fall apart in some way. Yeah. So Tesla called that the mortal oscillation rate, MOR, the rate at which the frequencies would meet and fall apart and self-amplify. So he knew that over 100 years ago.
Yes. Yeah. And so we're fighting against all these things, and really it's think about the irony of what you just said, right? Like we're fighting against these things to like kill and to destroy this virus, but what if we just got into that resonant space and we're done? It's like, it's beautiful. It's like going from this battle of like a elementary school band to a beautiful symphony orchestra. And that creates so much difference.
It is so amazing, the simplicity of it. I mean, there actually is a study with just two women. I mean, it's a small study, right. But someone who was a musician, and I can't remember the exact names here, but they taught two women who had breast cancer, verified by the medical community, to hum a certain tone every day for 3 months. Mm-hmm. And then when they got rechecked, their cancer was gone. And one woman's cancer was completely gone. And the other one, they really they said the surgery was worthless, So you can look up studies like that more and more. Now, I couldn't hum a tone for 3 months, 3 to 4 months, 3 to 4 hours a day or whatever. So that's why I put the WaveWatch together, because that's what you're doing. Your body is able to carry that tone, and very, very simplistically. But no, we don't. We tend to have gotten away from that. And I wanted to give you and your listeners just a little bit more information. Royal Raymond Rife followed Tesla in all of this information. Tesla, I think, was given a lot of credit. But Rife, if you want to look him up, I'm saying Rife, R-I-F-E. And, he was the one who put together an amazing microscope and basically had so much information and proof that frequencies were working. And so especially on the West Coast, there were a lot of doctors. There was a big get together. They got pictures in the newspapers that you can see, and they're in books and all kinds of things. I mean, let's make it simple. These doctors were agreeing that frequencies were changing our lives and curing they were using the cure word, using a lot of different things.
Which we're not allowed to use right now. So anybody listening, that word is not, it is for educational purposes only.
And maybe I shouldn't have said it that way, but that's what got them into trouble.
Yeah.
Okay. So then the AMA stepped in and banned frequencies.
Mm.
And Dr. Rife was basically put out of business. All his tools were destroyed. The doctors who had agreed with him and who were using the C word were out of business also. And it just
Right.
goes on and on and on. So, gosh, a frequency can change your life in many different ways, but
Yeah.
so can prescriptions. And that was the way that they chose to go.
Well,
No
and so
money
we have to
involved.
wonder, right? We have to wonder which one has the biggest dollar payoff
Yeah.
and whose self-interest was there. And, down the rabbit hole we can go.
Not a hard one to figure out. So, basically people got in trouble for using that, but they felt so
Right.
strongly. It's so interesting, you
Mhm.
know. And so frequencies are just totally natural and can be used in many different ways. But I have just chosen them to put them on the WAVWatch. So that makes it easier
Yeah.
for you to use if you're interested in that concept.
Well, I think people are probably wondering, okay, so we both mentioned WAVWatch a few times. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, both Linda and I have held up our wrists. I have an older model of the WAVWatch. Linda has the brand new one that just came out. But I mean, I use the WAVWatch all the time for all different stuff, whether it's like I'm feeling tired one day, or I just kind of need a boost, or, I feel like a sniffle coming on. I had a recent allergic reaction. I think when I did my meditation, I must have dropped the eye mask, and then I put it on my face, and then I fell asleep with it. And I woke up and my eyes were puffy. So I think there was probably dust in it. My body was like, get that dust off of me. So whatever there is that's happening, I know you have so many different frequencies in the WAVWatch that we can actually match the frequencies to the things that we're experiencing, and it literally creates a difference. I mean, I've seen it for me. I've seen it for my children, even with bug bites, right?
Yes,
Bug bites.
that's exciting.
You're like, how does that work? Like, all we did was just, set that watch on and have a magic tone, right? And here it is, like the swelling's going down, the itching's going away, and what is happening here? So talk to us a little bit about how does the WAVWatch use frequencies?
So the WaveWatch is made so that it has a speaker on the back. And
Okay.
it's a really, really fancy, I mean, the easiest way to describe it is a music player, because this is music, but it sounds like a bee buzz, so there's over 1,100 different bee buzzes on the WaveWatch, different
Right.
tones, basically. And
Mhm.
then with the speaker, when you put it on your wrist, it is absorbed through your body. And so there are about 70 different, what's the word I'm trying to say? Every cell has 70 different receptors, and they
Yes.
start to vibrate when they
Yes.
feel a frequency. And
Yes.
then that cell will vibrate, and then the next cell starts to vibrate, and the next cell, and the next cell. And then basically it whips through your body faster than the speed of sound. So,
Mm.
when something goes through water, it goes really fast. So if you want to get right down to it, it goes way faster. And sometimes some people are saying 4.3 times faster than the speed of sound through your body.
Wow. Wow. I haven't heard that statistic. That's
Mhm.
impressive. So
So it's just moving through your body.
that's amazing. Now, let me ask you a question, because I mean, this is a legitimate one, because the WaveWatch has a volume button, right? You can
Mhm.
turn it up so you can hear it with your ears. But what you're saying is it can be completely turned down, and you don't even have to be able to actually hear it with your ears, because it's going through your body and the body is picking up that frequency. Is that right?
Yes, that's a huge idea and concept that, people always think that it has to be really loud, but it doesn't, because, I'm deaf. Other people are
There you
completely
go.
deaf. And things are changing. So it did take me a while to even feel comfortable when I was developing the prototype that we didn't have to hear it. And then as I learned more and more, your skin, really does absorb those frequencies, and your bones do. So
Yeah.
bones are a huge factor for frequencies and sound going through, very, very fast. So your whole body is absorbing frequencies all day long, and they don't have to be broadcast and as loud as possible. They
Right.
can be very, very subtle. And so
So
that makes it nice and easy for us just to wear the WaveWatch without it being loud.
tell us a little bit about why people, I think I've shared a little bit about how I've used it and what I used it for. And really, I think the sky is the limit in terms of what I use the WAVWatch for, because there's so many different settings in the WAVWatch, so many different frequencies that you could literally play with it all day long.
Mhm.
And I do. But tell me, talk to me a little bit about some of the stories of people who have used it and how it's impacted them. Because I think it's still foreign for people to be like, well, how does a frequency change things? But I think the proof is really it's in the results that
Mhm.
get created, right? You're like, oh my goodness, like, look, that bug bite's not itching anymore, or I'm not having food cravings anymore, or, all of a sudden I feel more energized. So walk us
Well,
through.
I realize this is a podcast, so most people won't be able to see that I'm almost starting to tear up.
Oh,
Because I have had seven people take off their hearing aids
wow.
during the WAVWatch, and I've already told you about my hearing problem. Now,
Yes.
that hasn't happened for me. I'm missing a part, the anvil and the stirrup,
Okay.
I do not. But people who just lost their hearing slowly, 7 people have taken off their hearing aids. So that's a
That
favorite
you
one.
know of, that
Yes.
you've been
Yeah, that
told.
have called me and given me, and I have a written testimony on it.
Wow.
And then I do work with women's breast health. And in the prototype stage, I had 9 women, lots of women came in and helped me test. It was so amazing how women were so giving. And 9 of them came in that had breast lumps. They were not cancerous. I'm not saying that at all. But within about 30 minutes, the lumps had changed drastically or were completely gone.
Wow.
So I have several testimonies on that. But probably one of my favorite ones is kidney stones.
Mm.
Now think about this. What if you go to the medical community and you have lithotripsy done? What is lithotripsy?
What's the same thing we're talking about, is it not?
Yeah, except it's this huge rocket cone looking thing that you're laying underneath. And do you know how many times they hit you with those frequencies? They
Yeah.
don't know what frequencies to use, so they pack in every ultrasound frequency they get, and then they just do it like this. And my own neighbor said he quit counting it. I think he said 4,600, and he thought there were 7,200 times they were supposed to tap in with those
Oh my
frequencies.
gosh. And that's literally like throwing darts at the dartboard the entire
Yeah.
time.
Or you can wear a watch that just says kidney problems, kidney frequencies. You tune it into what you're interested in. And I've had 25 testimonies of kidney stones that have gone away within about 30 minutes. Their pain has gone away, and then also they'll go to the bathroom and do a urine sample, and it's full of all kinds of flack. So
What's happening?
you get the right, correct,
Yeah.
subtle frequencies. You don't have to have the huge tapping from
Yes.
lithotripsy, maybe, these are, so we're starting to kind of get enough testimonies that we know which direction to go for some studies. So
Yeah. That's
kidney stones is
amazing.
going to be one of the main ones.
Yeah, that's amazing. And again, like, these frequencies are already tested. They've been through the ringer. We know what these frequencies are. In my practice too, we use, infoceuticals, which are, it is essentially minerals that have frequencies embedded in the minerals. This is right along the same lines in a different way,
Yes,
right?
it is.
It's all frequency.
Mhm.
When we do our kinesiologic testing, we're just tapping into that frequency, that resonance. So it's what it is that body is sending out. I like to imagine it as, for all of you who are listening, if you kind of take your hands and you move them back and forth in a little ball shape, like that would be, a beautiful resonance of a cell. And then if you just slow the movement down of your hands, like, that is a cell that's suffering. And so as we bring in those frequencies, we're able to bring those cells back up to that beautiful harmonic resonance, that's unscientific.
What a great way to say it.
Yeah,
And if you're interested in homeopathics, that's what they are. They're
exactly.
frequencies. That's all
Yeah.
they are.
I'm not I'm not sure if everybody knows what
No.
homeopathy is, but just to give you guys an example, it's like homeopathy. They may take something like you know how like an onion has you cry, like allium cepa. Think about it when you get allergies, it can make your eyes water. So they might take a little dropper full of that allium, stick it into a gallon of water. Okay. And then take a dropper from that gallon of water, put it into another gallon of water, and they go through that constant dilution. So literally there is nothing left of that original substance. But the only thing is there is that frequency. So Linda, it's like you said, it's like we're putting the frequency into our bodies, which are largely water. And that's all that's happening with homeopathy as well.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And they used to have homeopathic hospitals.
Yes.
Isn't that, and allopathic hospitals.
Well, yeah. And that's
again,
the whole history.
Everything got phased out,
Mhm.
So we have known about frequencies more over 100 years ago, and we need to revive that. Don't you think? Maybe that's what he's saying,
So. We've moved into a society that's so pharmacologically based that we have forgotten really who we are as human beings on so many different levels. But like we're looking for that pill, that synthetic pill for every ill that actually destroys the frequency of the body. So while we may have the illusion that things are getting better, or maybe even our blood number, our number on blood work now moves into the normal area, well, what's a side effect of that, and how is it impacting the body in other ways? And this is where we've gone astray. Again, we're working sort of against our bodies instead of in union with our body. And I do believe that God designed us ingeniously, and everything we need is out there for us to heal. We just take any disease. It all has, like you said, every virus has a frequency. Out in nature, we can easily find plants that remedy different symptoms as well. So you bring those two worlds together of, the frequency and the substance, and the body can do amazing things with that union.
Yes. I wanted to share with you an amazing testimony. I hope this works in right now.
Yeah.
But I had a gentleman call up, and he said that he had ordered the WAVWatch for his wife with Parkinson's. And then you could tell he got all embarrassed. He was trying to figure out what to say. And finally, he just blurted out, "And we sleep really close together." And then he blurts out again, and I could feel her frequencies when she had the WAVWatch on.
Yeah.
Going, oh, that's where he was going, And then he continues.
You weren't sure initially.
And then he continues, and he said, and I got up the next morning and my feet didn't hurt. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, that's really neat. Of course, I responded. And then he goes, no, you don't understand. I've taken medication for 15 years. My feet have hurt for 15 years. And within 2 weeks, he was off his medication. I'm not telling you to do that. He went to the doctor.
Right.
And it was for neuropathy.
Yes.
So she was playing frequencies for Parkinson's. He was snuggling up with her. Greatest story ever. He snuggled up with her, felt the same frequencies, and his neuropathy changed drastically.
Amazing.
So here's a whole nother lesson about frequencies. We can share them.
Yes.
You could be wearing the WAVWatch for anxiety, and maybe your dog or your cat have anxiety, and I have testimonies on that, all kinds of testimonies over the top.
Oh, I'll tell you, I will take it on the airplane, and I've had, like crying, screaming baby in front, and I will turn the WAVWatch on. I do turn it up, but you can't hear on the airplane anyway because of all the sound. And I believe that, the child, the baby, calmed down just by turning on the WAVWatch. Just having a calming frequency, I think made a difference.
I love that, Dr. D, because you're about the 10th person that has told me that. People are taking them on it.
But it's not just
the kids crying, who wants to listen to that?
Oh, sometimes it's important, because sometimes you're like, am I making this up in my head? Is this real? But hey, if you've got 10, then it's not, then that's kind of the proof is in the pudding. I'm not just making it up. It's really what is happening, but it's frequency. I mean, I think for people to understand, you think about how you feel, not just when you listen to your favorite music, because I don't know, sometimes like I can't listen to music on certain devices. Like I can't listen to music on the phone. I feel like the frequency, it
Yeah.
gets distorted, and I
Mhm.
literally like my husband will turn music on his cell phone in another room. I'll be like, turn that off, it's making me crazy. But that same music coming out of a different device could
Mhm.
have a totally different effect. But think
Mhm.
about how you feel when you're, say, for example, in a nice meditational space, and you're just focused on the beautiful frequency of the music. Imagine if you were still in that meditational space and that music wasn't there. It's a completely different experience.
Exactly. And this is a great time to actually mention that we do have some problems with some of our tools. If you're hooked up to the internet, I'm sorry, but if you're wearing a watch that's internet connected,
Oh gosh.
that's a negative frequency. And I'm not trying to say any brands or anything, but if you've got internet and you're wearing it around, that is really, really negative.
That's fun. I had a client. She's like, "Well, I
Messes
want
up.
this for Christmas." I'm like, "Well, take it off your body. I don't care.
And
Do you want
people
to
are
have
now.
no health or not?" Yeah.
Yeah. And people are sleeping beside their cell phones, if they're
Yes.
foot away from their head. So
Yeah.
we have to have, I mean, they've trained 1,000% more, physicians on brain tumors and things because we're causing them ourselves. But I've got 3 examples. And if this doesn't, convince you, in my office, I had a woman who was wearing her cell phone in her bra and had 3 kinds of
Oh,
breast cancer underneath that cell phone outline.
yeah.
I had another lady who had changed work and had to wear her cell phone. She put it in her front pocket, and within 6 to 8 months, she has a huge tumor, ovarian
Mhm.
tumor, under the cell phone.
Right.
But to me, the worst one was an older lady that was a little bit crippled, so she leaned sideways, and she got a Lifeline alert hooked up to the internet. And within 6 months, she had breast cancer exactly under that Lifeline alert.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm not just saying something because I am saying something because there's evidence, there's
Right.
information.
Right.
We can back this up that these frequencies that are man made can be very dangerous and harmful to our system.
Yeah.
So,
I want to connect. So we're talking about sound, but all frequency is still frequency, whether you can hear the sound or not. And so
mhm,
all of that electromagnetic frequencies coming off of our devices then do have a definitive impact on our cells. Okay.
yes,
I mean, they know that scientifically, right? It alters
that's right.
the membranes of the cells. So
Mhm.
now those calcium ion channels aren't operating the way they were designed to, and now we have havoc.
That's exactly right. And there so many people are starting to realize that now and try to clean up their sound, because
Mhm.
acoustical sound is so important for us. It's our natural sound.
Right.
And so the acoustical sounds can be made to protect us from EMFs. So they have frequencies. So the WAVWatch has frequencies for radiation and EMFs. And so you can play that once in a while too, which
Yeah.
is very, very helpful. All kinds of detoxification ideas, for plastics. We're all starting to go
Oh
crazy over
gosh. Yeah.
plastics now.
Yes.
So we have codes for different plastic detoxes, and the list is endless,
Yes.
of the things that we could do.
Yes. And you know what I like too about the Wave Watch? The one thing that doesn't get talked about or addressed enough, and we see it a lot in our practice, and it is one of the more difficult things that we sometimes deal with because it requires a lot of nutrients and nutrition to kind of knock these guys out. But it's the parasites, and what I love about the Wave Watch too is you've got these parasite protocols, which we know from Hulda Clark's work, like I mentioned before, like it can assist us in getting rid of those parasitic infections, which we know more and more are at the core of a lot of the different things that are happening within our bodies negatively as well. Hey, this is Dr. D. I just wanted to remind you that you can get started on your true wellness journey. Go ahead and check the show notes and grab a link to the True Wellness Checklist. Now, let's get back to the episode.
And to go along with this, I do have my own little study that I did when I developed the prototype.
I want to hear it.
For parasites. And I have a machine, which is a frequency tool called an MSA or a biomeridian by iht.bio if you want more information about it. And I've used it for 15 years. It has about 50,000 frequencies on it, and it can give us information about what someone might have in their body by reading a frequency.
Yeah.
And so I tested 100 people really carefully when I was developing the WAVWatch, and 42 of them had parasites as their worst problem.
Yeah.
It's rampant, and we're not recognizing that, just like you said. Mm-hmm. So I taught the people to muscle test, which we've already talked about.
Yes.
And their bodies picked out a parasite remedy. And so then we set it aside, and then we put the WAVWatch on for 30 some minutes, and they wore it for parasites.
Yes.
And then we took like a 5-minute break. They retested. Their bodies did not want the parasite remedy, which before for 15 years, I'd have to give them 6 parasite remedies for 6 months, to get rid of it.
Right.
But within 30 minutes of wearing the WAVWatch, we retested on the same machine, and it did not pick up parasites at all. So everybody's going, how's that possible? Including me, I'd never seen that in 15 years. So people came back. It was so fun. They just volunteered. Somebody came back in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 months, and 3 months. And their body still didn't have parasites. And it was one 30-minute session.
Wow.
So just think, if you actually had that watch with you, you could play it once every couple of weeks to protect yourselves, because parasites they don't necessarily come back. They do if you didn't get rid of them all, but we get re-exposed to them. We walk out in the sand, that kind of thing. So we are always exposed to parasites.
Yeah,
so
I think people don't realize that. Yeah,
yeah.
I don't think people realize how much we actually have exposure to them, right? Whether it's in our environment or, I've got dogs and cats, and, the animals carry them. And I hate to, people are always like, how did I get that liver fluke? I'm like, well, somebody might not have washed their hands when they were serving your food at the restaurant, like we're just always exposed. And as adults too, when we've kind of destroyed our gastric juices and our digestive system, and that, that hydrochloric acid can't kill those things off like it's intended to, now we end up, with an issue. And it is prevalent. I mean, 42% sounds like it's somewhere around that realm. Maybe I'd say it's probably even higher.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that it wasn't 60%.
Yeah.
And after that, I did have someone, and I can say that they were a chiropractor, so that gives it a little bit of, medical continuity. Yeah. But they sent me a picture of a parasite that they had passed in 6 hours. They had done the 30-minute WAVWatch session, and 6 hours later, parasites are exiting their body. It was a foot long.
Wow.
So that was kind of the most visual picture that I've gotten of the parasites, but very, very interesting.
Well, that's the whole premise, right? With Hulda Clark and the zapper, it's just you're just putting the frequency in, and here we're doing that so easily and effortlessly. I love it. I love too. I mean, I'll say it. So I've got an older version of the WAVWatch, which is like this big square that people walk around. I can't tell you, by the way, speaking about electromagnetic frequencies, people look at that and they think that it's an Apple Watch. I'm like, this is not an Apple Watch. I would never, ever wear an Apple Watch on my body, ever. WAVWatch, it's doing the opposite. It's got good frequencies, not damaging my cells. But you guys have even revised it. So it literally looks like a pretty watch that you would just wear.
Right. Yeah, we had, we did a lot of surveys, and, we were ready for, an upgrade, and everybody wanted it smaller, and the technology was there. It wasn't there when I first started. And, it might've been if I had a $1 trillion budget, but it wasn't there, when I first developed it. But we were able to get that technology and make it a round watch and a little bit smaller. And I was so disappointed. Of course, as soon as it came out, I found out that Apple now has a square watch. But again, you don't want those watches that are hooked up to the internet. You want this to be internet free. And
Yeah.
I'm going to give you one more example of why I went this way, because there are some other tools that are being created with frequencies. There is something that you can buy for mosquitoes. And
Mm,
it is, you wear it on your wristband, and I don't know how it works exactly, but it makes a little sound, you know.
okay.
Well, it's a $40 tool for mosquitoes. Okay, then there's another one that you can buy for your menstrual cramps. And you put it around your waist and, clamp something onto your stomach, and it's using frequencies. And it's $237 just for menstrual cramps.
Oh my goodness.
And there's another one that's for calming, and it's something you wear on, a watch type
Frequency.
thing on
Yeah.
your wrist,
Yeah.
and it's for calming. And then from that same company, you can buy another one for sleep. So I have all of those frequencies that I just mentioned, plus 996 others, or whatever number you want to go by,
Right.
all on one tool. How many tools are you going to gather up, because they are starting to clue into frequencies. But you can put as many frequencies as, a tool will hold. You
Right.
don't get one at a time,
Right. Well, I mean,
don't do that. So when you're starting to look for, completeness.
yeah. Well, and that, I mean, I think the WAVWatch is an amazing value for what it is. I mean, as a practitioner, having shopped around for different frequency devices and devices for, my practice and all these things, I mean, they can become very, very pricey. Not that they're not worth the investment. I totally think they're worth the investment, but you've kind of brought it down to something that's so simple and I think a fantastic price point, that it's silly for people not to be like, oh my gosh, I need this tool in my tool chest, and the beautiful thing is, like, you can use it. Like, I share my WAVWatch with other people in my family. I don't necessarily need one for every single person, but we still share them. And it's completely reasonable. I know, in fact, for those of you who are listening, if you go to wavewatch.com and you use our code, I think it's dr.100, it will give you $100 off the WAVWatch. Is that right, Linda? It's a dot.
Yes,
Yeah. So
dr.100.
dr like doctor .100, that will give you that $100 off the WAVWatch. And I think you have new pricing with the new device. So what is the price point on there?
Yeah, it is up to $597 with your $100 off, but you can pay for that by the month. You can use your HSA and FSA on
Yeah,
those. We have that available for you.
that's
You know,
awesome.
you can make payments, or you could. We have specials going on. At different times,
Yeah.
different specials that you might catch up with. But you'll always get that basic $100 off for using Doctor Dot 100.
Dr. Dot 100, DR Dot 100. Yeah. I mean, $100 savings is $100 savings.
That's
I'll take
right.
it, right? But the truth is, I mean, it's so many different things in one. I mean, tell us more about the different frequencies. So you said, there's 996 more than just those other four
Yeah.
devices that you had plus. So what do people use the WAVWatch for? I mean, like I said, I think you could use it for anything. There's so many different settings, but what are some of the most popular uses of the WAVWatch?
Well, what I haven't even mentioned is pain.
Oh
That is the
yeah, we
most
haven't even talked about that. That's a
that's
huge one.
that is the most popular one.
Yeah.
And there's new information out there. I kind of like to give you, a little bit of scientific information.
Yes,
But
please.
a study were done by the School of Physics in Denmark, and they have been saying for 4 or 5 years now that they've proven that our nerves are not electrical.
Mm,
Our nerves are sound impulses. So if
amazing.
you tuck that into your brain, that is probably the biggest thing that the WaveWatch does, is work with nerves. So
Yeah.
we've had Parkinson's, we've had tremors, all kinds of nerve pain. I actually had a video on my website for a while. I'm not sure, videos change and, your website changes, but it was a lady who my husband and I sat beside at a banquet, and she had Bell's palsy. And my husband looked at her and he goes, "Would you like to wear the WaveWatch?" And so during the time that it took everybody around that table to eat dinner, her Bell's palsy of 20 some years changed completely. And
Wow.
so everybody picked up their phones and was, video on it. So, I mean, we have all kinds of proof. It was totally amazing. So that's what they're saying about nerves. Our nerves are sound impulses. And so the testimonies on nerves have been unbelievable, and lots of changes there. Lots of testimonies on inflammation, pain, and trauma, which was a
Mhm.
frequency that I kind of generated. And that seems to be probably the most important one
Yes.
because it works on several ideas at once.
Yes.
But, huge turnaround in, say a knee pain or hip pain or all kinds of joint pain, specific kinds of pain that you can use it for. That's really huge.
Yeah. You know what I was just thinking, Linda, as you're talking, what one of the most beautiful pieces is you can't create harm, right? Like, so even if you put it in a frequency that's not the exact right frequency, it's not creating damage. In fact, it might be working on something you didn't even realize was there, right?
Right.
Sometimes people have inflammation for years and years and years, and it's just become their norm that they don't even realize they have inflammation anymore because they've just kind of numbed their
Mhm.
senses or lowered their standard. But you can't, it's not like, gosh, if you take a drug and you take the wrong drug, that can have some really, really serious side effects. Here, if you're setting the wrong frequency, it
It
doesn't.
really doesn't do anything because if there's nothing for the frequency to interact with, if there isn't the exact frequency inside your body, it just goes on through and there's no interactions.
Yeah.
So one really cute thing, a lot of people ask me if someone they know who has a pacemaker can wear it. And
Yes.
I'm going, maybe I'm having too much fun, but it's like, well, has their doctor told them that they can't talk to you or they can't listen to music? No. Then there's no reason they can't wear the WAVWatch because it is a musical sound. It is a sound and it's completely safe. So that makes it really easy and laughable. And so if you're pregnant, hadn't even really thought of explaining that to women. I mean,
Right.
there's a lot of dangerous things out there that they want us to do during pregnancy.
Oh, yes.
Or you could try the WAVWatch. That's just sending natural frequencies through your body for a particular thing, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So
And that can actually be terribly beneficial, or I shouldn't say terribly, it should be wonderfully beneficial,
yes.
because of all the positive impact that it can have. I mean, like you said, you use the example of the man laying next to his wife, and it was set for what his wife needed, but it still impacted
Him.
him in a positive way. So that's really amazing. And thinking about, yeah, can you sing or can you listen to music? Think about all the sound bowls and sound bowl healing. It's like one of the newest crazes in the yoga centers and stuff. And what is that? It's all sound. It's all
It is.
frequency.
And so some people say, well, they have the sound bowls or they have tuning forks, but there's just one or two different tunes,
Right.
where the WaveWatch, I kind of did a rough calculation and most of the frequency sets have almost 30 frequencies in them. So, some have 20, some have 10, but the best I could figure out, we probably have 24,000 frequencies packed into this watch,
Wow.
you
Well,
know.
so you said something, and I just want to define it. So you said there's frequency sets. So what is a frequency set? Let's kind of break it down for people.
Well, with the new watch, I did have to change things a little bit. The FDA really wanted us to stay within the general wellness phrasing. And so
No C word.
there you go. And so I had to combine some of the things, together and put them under one phrasing. And then we call those frequency sets now. So instead of saying, I was like, oh, this is a good example. Oh, so we now have wave relief, which is how I would describe relief from inflammation and, swelling and pain, that kind of thing. So we've categorized that under wave relief, and it's a frequency set now with about 8 different frequencies of 8 minutes each that will play through a frequency set. So it's simplified it a little bit, but and helps us to stay within our guidelines for meeting FDA requirements.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yes.
People can't see us too much as we
They
really
can't see my little eye roll.
tiptoe
But I hear you. I hear
FDA
you.
phrasing. Very
Yes,
important.
I hear you. But what I'm thinking too is, like, you go to sound bowls and they're not, the frequencies are, you feel wonderful and harmonious, but they're not pinpointed. And hear what you're doing or what you've done, which I just think is so incredibly brilliant, which is why I was like, I've got to have you on the show and we've got to talk about this. Is, you've pinpointed what those things are. And now knowing that just opens up a whole opportunity for people, because now you can target.
Yes. And so these really are considered targeted frequencies. That's a perfect word,
Mhm.
And so we are honing in on an exact idea that we want to work on when we do it that way. Very important. And, hopefully saves you time, saves you money in the end. I mean, I've had some guy give me a testimony that it saved him $3,200 on his teeth. He went in and his gums were so much better. He was going to have, all kinds of gum surgery. And
Oh
nope,
no.
didn't have to have that,
Wow.
So you just can't even believe the testimonies. I have one. I'm still crying about a mother who it is on the internet now, and she was talking about her son who had all kinds of. She didn't exactly phrase it whether it was autistic, what all he had been diagnosed with, but he tried to commit suicide, all kinds of problems. And she's crying, and you can't understand everything that she says because she's so emotional, but you can understand when she says, in 2.5 days over the weekend, we used the watch over the weekend, and this is the first time I've ever seen my son normal.
Oh.
You can't. You just can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have all kinds of testimonies on emotions. We work with soldiers for PTSD. Plus, they don't just have PTSD. They have pain. They have, you
Yes.
can imagine the difference in what they might have. So here's a tool for them that can at least try to start working with a lot of those ideas rather than them go to one doctor here and 2 minutes later they have a doctor appointment somewhere else. And, it's a huge waiting game for that, where they can start pressing some buttons and work with many different things in a short period of time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, really powerful. It's really powerful. So you keep mentioning the website. You keep saying it's on the internet. So are you meaning it's on your website? So www.wave, W-A-V, no E. So WAVWatch, WATCH.com. Is that, I'm assuming that's what you're referring
Yes,
to.
maybe. And sometimes I'm rolling through. But, so that is the website, but you can also see YouTube, videos and, different places. We have some different videos. So
Yeah, and we'll have so those of you who are listening, you want to learn more about the WAVWatch, you want to check out the videos and stuff, we'll have all of those links in the show notes for you. So you can just go ahead directly to the show notes and it will give you that information. You can find out more about Linda, more about the WAVWatch. And I just think it's something that you have, created that's really extraordinary. Our purpose and our mission here is really to have people understand how powerful it is when we make connections with our own body, and how we're looking out into the natural world to see, well, what are those things that can actually benefit us. And this is a true testament to that.
And if I could just be silly again,
Yeah, go for
I
it.
want to encourage everybody, because I developed this when I retired. I didn't retire, I refired is the way to say that. And
I love it.
we can all give at any time of our lives. You never know when something is going to be life-changing,
Yeah, that's amazing.
So keep your thoughts going and keep, try the WAVWatch and learn about frequencies. And that's why it's called WAVWatch, waves and vibrations. Maybe that'll help you remember.
Oh, I love that. I didn't know that. I just assumed it was wave, like a frequency wave, but no, wave.
That's actually a musical, they measure things in waves,
I
WAV.
love it. Okay, I didn't know that. See, I learned something new. Well, Linda, tell us. I always ask all of our guests before we complete, what are 3 pieces of advice that you have for our audiences on things that they can begin to do to improve and restore their health?
Wow. So this isn't necessarily about WAVWatch, right? Just overall.
Well, I think without a doubt, I think WAVWatch is an amazing tool So they should be going to WAVWatch.com. They
There
can
you go.
use
So
DR.100.
my favorite other thing, and I'm not sure if I'll expand too much more, but it's salt. We have been given a lot of incorrect information about taking salt.
Yeah.
So salt, because if you get the right kind, there are lots of different kinds of salt, but get unrefined sea salt that has a color to it.
Yes.
And then you're getting some, 70 to 90 different minerals. And nothing in your body works correctly if you don't have minerals. So it is cannibalizing other parts of your body before it gets a mineral to work, before it can get a vitamin to work, actually, because you don't have the right mineral. It's just crazy how it's so interactive. So I take a teaspoon of salt every day. I love
that. We're on the same page. As soon as I feel like my energy dip, I just grab. So we typically recommend the pink salt from Premier Research Labs. They're, one of my favorite supplement companies. And so I'll just take that, drop it in my water. And that's what I use. And
I would say make sure you muscle test, because women who are still cycling need the pink Himalayan salt normally. And I've taught over 6,000 people to muscle test this, and I've seen this firsthand. Yeah. But someone my age needs the Redmond's sea salt. We don't need all of the pink, which is iron, Yeah. So, and men need different minerals than women. So they test more for a Celtic sea salt. So people test different at different times of their lives for different kinds of salt. So huge. And I don't know, I've taken up so much time. That's probably the main thing that I tell people. And probably if I wanted to, just say something else, it's like sing, start singing, or start making some kind of a sound on your own, and share laughter and share love. So you can't see me on the screen too much, but I have my favorite sign back here, and it's love. Yeah. The frequency for love is 528. Yes. And that's what we need to be sharing. So pass the love around. So maybe that's my 3 tips.
I love that. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here with us, for sharing your knowledge. Thank you for the gifts that you have provided the world and putting this out there, and all the miracles that are, created just by people using something that you have invented, even though you were retired. So I'm super grateful for that, Linda. And everyone, you can visit Linda's website. Again, it's www.WAVWatch, So I'll do that all together, www.WAVWatch.com. And you can check out the Wave Watch there. And if you use code D like Danielle, R like DR.100, that will get you $100 off of your Wave Watch. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And thank you so much again, Linda, for being here and joining us today.
It was terrific. A lot of fun.
This is Dr. D reminding you to tune into your body, connect with what matters, and embrace the journey to true wellness. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's ready to redefine their health. Be sure to grab a copy of the True Wellness Checklist right in the show notes. Let's keep redefining wellness and empowering change together. See you for the next episode.